What are the different types of commercial solar installations? In this video, we'll help you determine whether a roof mount, ground mount, or carport is best for your business. I'm Warren.
And I'm Larry, and for over 15 years, we have helped thousands of customers control their costs and save money with solar energy.
It's this invaluable experience that we use to bring you an honest inside look at all things solar energy. Let's get into it. So Larry, clearly you really have three different types of options, either a roof mount, a ground mount, or a carport, or some type of structure to put the solar on. Let's start off talking about roof mounts. What makes an ideal roof for solar?
So the perfect roof for solar, Warren, is south-facing, shade-free, and has the meter right on it, or at least close to the point of interconnection. That's perfectly ideal. Now, we've done roofs east and west facing with some shade or trench, but that's the ideal roof.
Right. So if you're putting solar on the east or west, you just need to add more panels to get the same production that you would need facing south. What type of roofs do we put panels on, and how are they mounted to the roof?
So the basic types are shingle, standing seam, and then like a corrugated metal or a flat roof. So there's four basic types. Shingle, you're going to do some type of either a flashing or just a direct deck mounted solution, which is something that we'll talk about in a future video. Ballasted roof mounts, you set the panels down, you weight them down with concrete blocks to keep them on the roof, keep them from moving around. You can get away with no roof attachments there. Standing seam, you clip right onto the standing seam. Again, no roof penetrations. And then a corrugated metal, you're typically putting an attachment down and running 2 to 4 screws per attachment into the roof decking.
Great. And what are some of the pros and cons of putting the solar on the roof?
So the pro is typically the roof is going to be your cheapest option because you don't need to build a structure to put it on. You can just attach it to the roof and you're done. Some of the cons might be you can't face it perfectly south, or you can't move it away from shade. Another con might be you can't move it closer to the point of interconnection. So those are some negatives potentially with the roof mount, but typically the roof mount's going to be the most cost effective and your best ROI in a lot of situations.
You also may run out of space on the roof. You may need to do a larger system than the space you have on your roof. And then for a commercial solar, what's the cost and what are the factors that go into price?
Yeah, so for a commercial roof mount, typically your flush mounted running with your roof is going to be the most cost effective. Okay. If you have to do a ballast mount or otherwise tow up your modules somehow, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. So typically flush mount is the best route to go, but we can analyze different options.
All right, super. Now let's talk about ground mounts. What's an ideal scenario for a ground mount solar array?
Again, ideal is facing south, no shade, close to the point of interconnection. So that's not always going to happen, but that's the ideal situation.
But it's much easier. You have more flexibility on the ground to face south than you would on a roof.
Yep, you can move it around. You can move it close to the point of interconnection. You can move it away from shade. You can face it true south. You have some more flexibility to do what you want to do there.
And how are the ground mounts installed?
So typically what we're doing there, oftentimes we're pounding posts into the ground about 7 feet.
Okay.
Now, that can be challenging if there's rock or if for some reason we're unable to pound the posts in. Maybe there's something underneath the ground that we don't want to pound into. So in those cases, we can do what's called a ballasted ground mount, where we weight the modules down with concrete. There's other cases where there's rock, but we can get a smaller screw down and it doesn't have to go as far. Maybe it only has to go 4 feet. Okay. So typically you're pounding, you're doing ground screws, or you're doing some kind of concrete ballasted system.
Sure. And then what are some of the pros and cons of a ground mount?
So the cons is that you got to build the structure to put the panels on. Roof mount, you didn't have to do that. The benefits are that, like we talked about, you can face it directly south. You can tilt it how you want to tilt it. You can put it closer to the point of interconnection. You can move it out of shade. So you have more flexibility, and you can go as big as you want as long as you have the ground space for it.
Sure. So in some instances, could the ground mount actually be less expensive if you get the perfect orientation, the perfect tilt, and you're close to the interconnection point?
Absolutely. There could be cases where you have an east and west facing roof and you have lots of shade, and maybe a ground mount's to produce the same power is a cheaper cost.
So give us some insight, Larry, into the cost of commercial solar and what goes into it.
So some of the factors in the cost of the ground mount is how are you physically mounting it? Are you pounding posts? Pounding posts is probably going to be the cheapest.
Okay.
Doing ground screws is going to be a little more expensive. Doing a ballasted mount is probably going to be the most expensive. And then the other big thing that we see is how long is your trench back to the interconnection point? There's a massive difference between 100 feet and 500 feet. There's a massive difference between 500 feet and 1,500 feet. So the farther you go, the cost goes up exponentially.
Great. And then finally, let's talk about carports, and starting off with what's an ideal scenario for a carport.
Again, you want to be facing that thing south,
Yep.
out of shade, close to the point of interconnection. Now, carport's a little bit more challenging typically because you want to run with the parking spaces.
Sure.
You can't run diagonal across the parking lot. You want to run with the parking spaces so that cars can still park underneath. So that gets a little bit trickier with the carport as far as placement.
Okay. And then how are the carports installed?
So typically there you're going to do either a post very deep into the ground.
Yeah.
You're often going to do some type of concrete, or you might just do a massive concrete pier. Now in the past, we would have those piers sticking out of the ground several feet.
Sure.
What they're able to do today is have that pier completely underground so you don't even know that it's there. So you have a pretty long post and then you have a lot of concrete keeping that thing in the ground.
Super. And what are some of the pros and cons of carports?
So the con of carports is it's a lot more expensive. I mean, you might as well figure 2 times the cost of the ground mount.
Right.
Very, very expensive. The benefit is you're now using your parking space for 2 purposes. You're using it
Right.
for parking and you're using it to produce energy. And in addition, another neat benefit is that you're shielding your vehicles and possibly your employees or whoever's parking there from the weather, from rain,
Yep.
snow, ice, some of those kinds of things. So it provides a little bit of shelter for someone that's parking.
And then what are the costs of a commercial carport and what goes into those costs?
Yeah, so the cost variation is going to be based on, again, do you have rock underground? Do
Yeah.
you have to do some kind of drilling to get through that rock, or what does that look like? And just like a ground mount, how far are you away from that point of interconnection?
If you're a business leader or homeowner and want to see how solar can help you save more of your hard-earned money, visit paradiseenergy.com to request your free custom quote. In addition, our website is full of calculators, blogs, buyer's guides, and more, all designed to help you on your way to a successful solar investment. Thanks for watching, and click here to watch the next video.